Welcome to the Fat Fuel Family Podcast, where every week Danny and Maura Vega discuss topics that help families live a healthy and active lifestyle with their little ones, including nutrition and training, peaceful parenting, education, and mindset. To stay up to date, make sure to hit subscribe on this podcast and check out the blog at www.fatfuel.family. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram at DannyVega.ms, at FatFueledMom, and at FatFueledKids, and Fat Fueled Family on YouTube. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, I want to take a minute to make a quick shout out to our sponsors, Optimal Carnivore. You've heard us talk about how important organ meats are. They're some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Now for people like me and my oldest son Desmond, it's easy to eat things that turn most people off because if you tell us it's healthy, we're down for whatever. But for my other son Dean and Maura, and I suspect a lot of you, not so much. You can make things like our organ meat burgers, but that also requires some effort, and you still may not like the taste. Optimal Carnivore sources 100% grass-fed organ meats from New Zealand, freeze-drying the organs and encapsulating them into convenient bovine gelatin capsules. Unlike a lot of areas in the US, New Zealand still has a lot of rich soil, lush greenery, and one of the cleanest environments on Earth. They currently have a grass-fed organ complex that contains 9 different organs, including beef liver, brain, thymus, heart, kidney, spleen, pancreas, lung, and gallbladder, and they have a grass-fed liver product. These products are perfect for people who are traveling or still trying to develop an appreciation for organ meats. Optimal Carnivore covers your bases at home or while traveling, and their products are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished and free of hormones, pesticides, antibiotics, and GMOs. The mission over at Optimal Carnivore is to make it easy for people to consume the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. They also plant 1 tree for every product sold, which helps the environment. Head to amazon.com/optimalcarnivore and use the code VEGASAFE10 to receive 10% off all of their products. Welcome to the Fat Fuel Family Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Vega, and I am joined by my lovely wife, Maura. How are you, my love?
I'm doing good.
We are so excited to have one of our best friends on. This is, I think, his 3rd time. This is one of the most closest people in my life, and we're super excited to talk about, number 1, his new book, and number 2, the new addition to the Sikes family. But first, let me give you a little bit of a background on him. Robert Sikes is a lifetime natural competitive bodybuilder. He started the Keto Savage site, his YouTube channel, and the podcast to help motivate and educate others about the importance of following your passions and getting the results you want. He wakes up early, he works his butt off, and he sees results. His message is that he's no different than you. Any success that he's experienced as far as attainable for anybody willing to put in the work. He hopes to empower those who crave intensity, dedication, discipline, hard work, and sacrifice. He's more than a friend. He's a brother. He's also the owner. Him and Crystal are the owners of Keto Brick, which is one of our favorite foods. You guys know, you've heard it on this podcast ad nauseum.
Oh yeah.
We just put ads in the podcast just to put ads. You know, it's not like we're and yeah, yes, he does send us free keto bricks. So you know, that's but just so you guys know, I just put in an order of my own. Yeah, but I still order my keto bricks. I just put in an order because I'm going to be doing for the next 3 months. If you guys don't remember, for the last 3 years, I've been doing keto meat and bricks for the month of January.
Oh, yeah.
But for the next 75 days, I'm going to be doing, we're leading our group coaching through 75 Hard. And the diet that I'm picking is meat and bricks. And I'm also really excited. I told Robert about this, that one of my clients, we're going to be taking her through a keto bulk using meat and bricks. So we're breaking every single rule, I think, available right now when it comes to bodybuilding. But that's why we have Robert on, because we're going to talk about his approach. So first of all, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on? It's good to see y'all again. Good to be here talking with you, chit-chatting. I'm looking forward to this.
I know it's been forever, and I have to know because Danny mentioned it. Are you still waking up at 4:30 or however early?
Yeah, it's between 3:30 or 4. One of those 3 options
I
is.
knew it was even earlier. Yeah. What time do you guys get to bed?
Last night I went to bed at like 9:30. I want to say.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, we've pushed ours to, well, this week
My body has been waking me up very early.
Oh, well, this morning
Today
she
it was
woke up at
4:30,
4.
but it's also because I had a headache, so I get migraines like random times of the month because of hormones, and they would wake me up at night. It's really bad.
Yeah, but for me, my REM has gone up because I've been waking up at like 5:20, and I've been averaging the last 2 weeks closer to 8 hours of sleep, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
I've been working on my sleep for the last couple of months, so for me, with the boys and with my parents in town and all that good stuff, we end up going to bed like at 10:30.
Yeah.
So, but it's been working, man. But let's get into this, my love. Why don't you start us off how we always get started?
Oh, yes. Okay. So, we always start off with the question, what is the most critical problem you are currently trying to solve now?
My life's got all kinds of problems in it right now. All exciting problems and opportunities for growth, but problems nonetheless. So, from the business standpoint, we're trying to ramp up the Keto Bricks. We got a lot of things going on behind the scenes with the Keto Brick business. So that's a big thing right now. We got the book launch next month, if all goes well. I'm not sure when this podcast is going out, but that'll be launching in January. So that's been a big thing as well. And then we got the baby on the way. So, really diving into all that world. We spent most of the weekend decorating the nursery, putting together cribs and all that stuff. So that's kind of just organized chaos in our house right now for sure.
That's fun.
I love it, man.
I love that. That's so fun.
We could delve into that deeper, but I feel like, it would probably be better to talk about that at a different time. But we were just talking about scaling up, and how that's such a big part of things and the growing pains that come with scaling.
Yeah, scaling a bit, and it's different too if it's like a computer-based, digital e-commerce platform versus, a physical product, in sales like the bricks. We have physical products. We have a lot of overhead. We have, employees, things like that. And scaling a business is probably one of the hardest things I've done in business. And I haven't mastered it by any means. I might be doing it totally wrong right now, but there's not really any defined roadmap as to how to do it. And if you do it incorrectly, you run the risk of, overreaching and then kind of shooting yourself in the foot. If you don't be aggressive enough, then you're leaving opportunity on the table, and you don't want to do that either. So it's pretty tricky. Like scaling a business properly is not an easy task.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we have friends who have gone a certain route and then, they have lost autonomy, and then
right.
Later it ends up being like they end up having to go a completely different direction because, it gets complicated when you bring more people in, and it's not just people like employees, like people that are gonna, like investors and things like that. And a lot of investors are really, really smart and crafty and with good lawyers, so they see things that we don't see.
Yeah, I've not found the need to go towards outside funding, angel capital, or anything like that, because
I don't see you doing that.
No.
Yeah, to me that's just that's bringing in too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Like you get just too much chaos going on, and you don't really know, like the direction and the values of the company are liable to shift in a negative direction if you bring on too many people that are too financially focused. So I don't anticipate doing that.
Gotcha, man. Well, let's talk about the main reason why we wanted to have you on. You have a book that's going to be coming out. I had the honor of reading it, man. I was so blown away by it. Number one, because I don't think there's anything like it. Number two, because of your approach. The way I described it the other day, it's very methodical, but at the same time, very simple. For example, like, I'm sure we'll dig into some of these details, but like if you look at some of people's peak weeks, it's all over the place, and I think even the athletes almost expect peak week to be this like grand production, with the amount of supplements and the manipulation and all this stuff. And I've just seen in my experience, like it leads to a very anxiety ridden and unpredictable show day. And it's like the same concept behind taking approaches that are aggressive in anything, where you have wildly swinging pendulums, where the pendulum swings really hard one way and then it goes really hard the other way. But tell us first about the vision for the book, and who would you say this book is for?
Yeah, so I've been writing the book now for over 2 years. Like there's like the very beginning of the book, I go through a bunch of formulas and I use myself as an example. And in the examples, I say at the time of this writing, I'm 28 years old and I'm 30 now. So like I've literally been writing this book for over 2 years. I've been doing bodybuilding since I was a junior in high school, and I've been doing ketogenic bodybuilding for about 7 years now. And for me, like, I don't know how familiar people are with the Keto Savage brand and kind of my story, but, you know, I've seen success in natural bodybuilding with traditional prep protocols, with, you know, clean bro dieting, with flexible dieting. And not that those are wrong. I mean, that's going to be a great option for some people, but for a lot of people, it just isn't sustainable. It's not optimal from a nutrient density standpoint. And it really bodes to leaning towards a lot of, you know, disordered eating habits if you go that direction with it, which is what happened to me. And I kind of had a downward spiral of disordered eating for years after my first show. So I knew there had to be a better way, which is kind of what led me to the ketogenic diet. And then I've been doing that, like I said, for about 7 years, earned my pro card with a ketogenic approach. And I basically took a lot of what I had learned with traditional bodybuilding protocols and then applied that plus what I had, you know, discovered through self-experimentation over years of doing keto myself, and then also working with over 500 clients, and pretty much crafted what I think to be the best prep protocol for natural athletes following a ketogenic, you know, diet and lifestyle. And again, that's not to say that you can't do it with a bro dieting or flexible dieting protocol, but there's a definite demographic out there of people that would prefer and respond better to elimination of dietary carbohydrates, especially processed sugars. So having an outlet for them, you know, with a ketogenic approach in a sport that is predominantly dominated by, you know, carbohydrate-based athletes, you know, having an alternative option for them just kind of opens the window for a lot more opportunity to excel in that sport. So anybody that's a natural athlete that's wanting to, you know, forego the carbohydrates and excel in bodybuilding, I would say this book's a pretty good fit for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I want to do the bodybuilding questions.
Of course, and then I'll do the,
because
sure. That's what I was thinking anyways.
Mada's gonna tackle the parenting questions. Yes. All right, awesome. Number one, I think that there's a misconception out there that that people are doing a science-backed approach when they do the standard approach. And again, this is not to disparage that approach. I just want to make sure that things are clear, because, you know, when people tend to throw around studies around and they tend to talk about certain things, and a lot of the time we're connecting dots. And I would say, and you tell me if you don't agree, every single approach available right now is pretty much like majority practical based. It's all based on things that have worked for people. I don't see a lot of research on even the methods that people use for the standard approach, you know, as far as a bodybuilding, you know, protocol. So that's, I wanted to just say that, because a lot of what you do is based off of your experimentation with your athletes and things that you've seen that have led to people winning, you know, getting some hardware at some shows. So for those who don't know, what is, you know, can you give like a little bit of, and I'm sure people could look at your KetoCon presentation. That was fantastic. And your, at the NACA bodybuilding show, if that talk is available online, people can see the way you approach it from the year round, you know, from macro cycle to mesocycle, all that. But what would you say, how could you define your approach, and how would you say that it differs from the standard approach?
Yeah, so my approach basically, you know, is totally ketogenic. Like there's no carb ups, there's no carbohydrate refeeds, there's no use of carbohydrates as the primary fuel source. Like I start my athletes at, you know, 15 or 20 grams of total carbs at the onset, and then that tapers down to, you know, 10 grams total carbs. Or people can do a totally carnivore approach and forego the carbs entirely and still follow the protocol to a T without any issues. So that's going to be the biggest difference. What I've basically done with the book and, you know, my protocol is I've broken it down into 7 primary phases to really just kind of help illustrate things and break it down in a very easy to digest, actionable plan. So phase 1 is all about determining what your initial, you know, stats are, what your, you know, baseline is at the onset. You know, what your body fat percentage is, what your metabolic baseline is, what your hormonal baseline is, really just honing in on what your baseline is at the onset of the prep. And then phase 2 is all about titrating protein up and dietary fat down. I start my athletes at a very high fat ratio to kind of lend itself to a deeper level of fat adaptation at the beginning of the prep. Start with about 80% of their calories coming from dietary fat. And then as the prep goes through phase 2, basically I'm increasing protein, dropping fat to figure out their protein threshold, which is going to be very unique to that individual. Phase 3 is going to be the reduction of both fat and protein. So total calories are decreasing throughout that time. Phase 4 is the introduction of ketogenic caloric refeeds. So again, there's no carb refeeds. Basically, I'm just adding a bolus of protein and fat for a specific refeed day to kind of help with, from a metabolic standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, and to also kind of act as a trial peak week to really get things primed for peaking. Phase 5 is all about the actual peak week itself. So that's the whole peak week is dedicated to that entire phase. So optimizing for that. Phase 6 is post-show, immediately post-show. Basically increasing protein back up to about a 1-to-1 with their lean mass, and then from there increasing total calories from both protein and fat to kind of return to a baseline. And then phase 7 is basically the baseline and beyond, so putting you into a slight caloric surplus to optimize for building muscle in the off season, so that the next time you transition into a prep, you're looking better when you step on stage as opposed to worse. So that's kind of it in a very high level nutshell view.
No, dude, I love it. I love it. And I mean, there's so many things I loved about the book, but one thing that you guys will see is that there's no guesswork. I freaking love it. There's no adherence to everything is based on the individual. So there's no like you're not gonna see the typical equations that most people use. So I really, really love that. There's everything from supplementation to specific micronutrients to electrolytes. There's just so much good information, dude. I'm telling you, man, I cannot wait for this thing to come out. Yeah, because I honestly, like the book, there's really not much more unless there's anything you think we missed, man. The book, I really think people just need to go out and get the book. I told Robert, and we're very honest with each other. I don't think there's anything like this. I think this should be something that anybody who...
I haven't heard of anything like this.
No. And anybody who wants to do ketogenic and really has the patience to do things the right way, which means like don't do these crazy swings in calories, don't do these gimmicks. Anybody who wants to take a multi-phase, several year-long approach to not only, build muscle, burn fat, but also keep a healthy hormone profile, this is going to be the way to do it. And the one thing I didn't say before is that a lot of coaches, like for me, for example, what I will do is I will allow, if an athlete wants to do a carb up, I will offer like how to do it, how I would do it. But then I have a lot of athletes who want to stay, completely ketogenic, and we do fat refeeds, we do
salt, right?
Calorie. Well, depends. Like one of my clients didn't do well with the extra salt on peak week. So we didn't add that for the next peak week. We just added extra calories, and it was awesome, So, but I'm just saying. So
that's another thing. It's like a personalized testing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Testing it out on yourself as well.
Yeah. But like the one thing that I know you've had people, I just want to, before I hand it over for her, you've had a lot of people to talk about this subject, and I think that it's a good one. We do know that with big deficits, people have hormone issues. Women have hormone issues. And so you've had a lot of women to talk about this. You've had a lot of people to talk about this. Talk about real quick before I hand it over to Maura.
I was going to ask that question. Are you going to ask about hormones?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say like what he's seen with his approach, because he just adds fat and adds calories, and I just share your experience.
And do you have them do they run any like tests? Do you suggest any of that, or kind of like leave it up to them?
Yeah, so as far as the book itself is concerned, I definitely dive deep into the hormones. Not so much from I'm not a hormone specialist, but I know kind of from a dietary manipulation standpoint what is going to be beneficial or not for hormones. And you see a lot of, I've read a lot of different prep books, for natural bodybuilding. And there's a lot of really great resources out there, but a lot of them really kind of brush over the whole reverse dieting phase and the baseline phase. That's why I made, 2 dedicated phases specifically for the reverse diet, and then 1 initial phase all about making sure you're starting from a good position, because so many people, guys and girls, but I see it a lot in females, they'll start the prep at too low caloric intake with really down-regulated hormones to begin with. So like they get 2 months into a prep and they're already running on empty, and they just can't sustain the remainder of the prep. So really making sure that you're in a good position to begin with was a huge focus of the book, and then really holding people's hands through the post-show after the competition's over, so that they don't spiral out of control and go off the rails and, let their metabolism or their hormones go down the tank and then develop a bunch of negative disordered eating habits. Kind of really resolving that with the proper guidance was one of my main focuses for sure.
Yeah, you're getting rid of that chance, because if you do fly off the handle, it's like you get that body dysmorphia, because it's hard to come out of that. It's something about it. You always see yourself I don't know, I see myself the same all the time. You know what I mean? You don't really notice those subtle changes in yourself, but then when you gain the weight, you're like, well, oh my gosh, I'm not shredded anymore, but it's fine.
Yeah.
You're just not used to it.
Nobody is really open about that, but that is something, there's more athletes that compete that have disordered eating tendencies or body dysmorphia than not. I mean, there's a higher percentage of people that do than there are that don't. But yet you don't really ever hear about it. You don't really talk about the reverse diet because it's not as sexy to talk about the weight you've gained as it is the weight you've lost and the abs you have. So really kind of taking a large portion of the book and diving into that and offering some insight was a huge priority.
Before one more question before.
Oh, yeah.
Just real quick. You're very adamant about getting these people, and I say women because a lot of the time women undereat.
Women.
I know men do it too, but I find that the women.
Yes.
I work with more women than men, anyways.
Well, I undereat, and I have I had to add a meal. I can't even do the fasting right now because I'm so skinny. You know what I mean? I get too lean, and then my cycle gets affected, and then I'm stressed, so it's I'm fried. So I had to add that breakfast meal, you know what I mean? Just for the fat, and it's super fatty, so it's just pure fat and a little bit of protein, and
visible changes in her muscle.
It's for my brain. You're just and also yeah, just something before my killer workouts, because I go heavy, so it's I can't go in there on empty,
So how do you approach, this is one thing that you're adamant about. Crystal's done a really good job of sharing about great. How important it is to get to a good baseline. What would you say to the person who's listening to this who maybe can't afford to work with a coach, or maybe before they read the book, that they need to get to a healthy baseline? How do you mentally prepare them to know that there might be some weight put on, but in the long run that it's better off for them? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so I'll get a lot of female clients that, come to me initially wanting to lose weight, not even necessarily compete, just wanting to lose a few pounds, but they'll have chronically undereaten for the past several years. Their hormones, metabolism will all be down-regulated, and they're not going to have enough caloric runway from which to do a healthy, cut or deficit. So I'll typically start them off in a reverse diet and basically reverse diet up, and then hold them at that higher intake for a long enough period of time for things to reset, kind of return to a healthy, normal baseline. And that's a hard conversation to have. When somebody comes to me as a coach and they're coming to lose weight, and I've got to, sit them down and say, hey, look, we're going to have to increase calories instead of cut calories further. You're probably going to gain a little bit of scale weight, and you're going to have to just be okay with that. And you're probably going to have to do it for several months, if not longer, before you ever even think about losing more weight. Now, that said, I have noticed that I have had quite a few female clients. I've got one client right now that started at 1,600 calories, have got up to 2,000 calories right now, and she's lost 12 pounds. That's kind of strange. You have these hormonal fluctuations.
That happens to me. I added breakfast and I lost weight.
Yeah, it happens. I don't really know the exact mechanism behind it, but I think a lot of it has to do with putting your body in a more of a parasympathetic state as opposed to the sympathetic state. But I don't tell people that's what they should expect. Most people will gain weight with the increase in calories, but really kind of walking them through the long game plan and why it's important, and that, hey, look, if you don't do this, you're basically just, constantly getting worse as opposed to getting better. And if what you've done previously isn't working for you, you have nothing to lose but to go full speed ahead into this and do it the right way and play that long game. And then when I break that down for them, they're typically all bought into it.
Yeah, I think if they were tracking before, because I will get a lot of people that tell me their exact macros, they probably are sneaking in extra calories, and they're probably eating more than the plan that I give them. And then I give them the plan, and it ends up being a deficit from what they were eating, because they're constantly adding little things here and there that put them over their macros, but they're not looking at the adherence to the macros as much as the actual macros on paper. They don't count the...
Yeah, they're like, oh, that was a bite. That was a little bite.
Yeah, like 300, 400, 500 calories like extra that they ate. Like
a lot of people do that. A lot of people are dishonest with their actual consumption. And people just, snack, flippantly throughout the day without any thought given to it. And like those calories can add up really quick. So really being honest with your intake is step one for sure.
I love that. Yes. All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah. It's your turn.
Okay. So you guys heard from his wife, Crystal, a few weeks back on the podcast. And so you guys know they're expecting. We're so excited. We found out the sex. So, you guys are going to find out on the show. But I have a few questions for Robert. So firstly, I kind of just want to know a fun question. Who was the one that kind of wanted kids first?
That's such an easy question.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Oh,
and
that's a good one.
And also, how did you guys prepare, or like you yourself, because you as the father, did you do anything separate from Crystal? How did you kind of prepare, educate yourself, if anything, on babies? Because they don't come with a handbook.
Yeah, they do not come with a handbook. So we both wanted kids. We've both wanted kids for a while, but I'm kind of much more strategy, business minded. That's kind of where my mind is always at. So for me, there's just always stress with the business. So I don't ever really think that I'm cool, calm, collected enough to have a baby. So I've always kind of pushed it back. And then last year, once we moved into our house, we had a house, we weren't living in the warehouse.
Right.
She's like, look, we need to have a baby sooner rather than later. I'm gonna be 34 too long. We need to start this process.
Yeah, for her body too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, you're probably right. Let's just it's not gonna get any better, more optimal than this. Let's just jump in. That's pretty much what we did. But as far as what I did to prepare, I pretty much just trusted her, honestly, because Crystal's always just as my passion is business and fitness, her passion is parenting and motherhood. So she's wanted to be a mother from day one. I knew from the moment I met her that she was going to be an amazing mother. So I just trusted her to do what she thought right to do. And she dove super deep into all the research about, mother being a mother. So she looked into all the supplements that she would need to be optimized. We got nutrition dialed in, everything's just totally perfect. So I pretty much just let her take the wheel on that one.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, of course. She's always been like that. She's always had that nurturing spirit. So of course she would dig in, because I know I did. And of course you share, you share what you...
She was a mother to us when we're around. When there's other people around, she's like a mom to us. So.
Well, yeah. Well, we are sometimes to our husbands a little bit. We're like...
For real? Yeah.
I'm going to have to send him that TikTok later. That's so funny. That Tara did.
Oh, yeah.
I'll send it to you. You're going to laugh. Okay, so of course, Baby Savage coming this year. When do you guys do, by the way? I forget.
Just sometime in May. I don't know
Oh, in May. That's right. Okay, cool. Well, I want to talk a little bit about nutrition, because it's kind of interesting talking about this, because we've interviewed on our podcast several different couples that are in the ketogenic community or health focused, and they all seem to have very different opinions on raising children up, with nutrition and stuff. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that? What are your plans? And we kind of talked to Crystal about breastfeeding and baby-led weaning, but you also bring that different element where it's the nature, you guys always go hunting and just being closer to where our food comes from. So yeah, I would love to hear just a little bit about what you think of that, nutrition, all that.
Yes, from a nutritional standpoint, I mean, Crystal and I have both been keto for forever. I've been strict keto for 7 years. She's been strict keto for 6. So we got a lot of questions at the onset about what are you going to do for pregnancy? Do you need to eat carbs for, pregnancy, development of the fetus and everything? And she has not done that at all. She's been super strict with her ketogenic diet. She'll have some berries from time to time, but I mean, at no point has her total carbohydrate intake probably exceeded 30 grams. So she's been legitimate keto through and through the pregnancy. Getting pregnant was no issue whatsoever for us personally. That happened really quick and easy. And from what we can tell so far with all of our check-ins with the midwife and the ultrasound, the baby's growing at a great rate. Everything's looking perfect from that standpoint. So from a, pregnancy nutrition standpoint, just continuing to follow our strict ketogenic diet has been key. She eats good quality foods, all well sourced, and stays on top of her vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes. As far as nutrition for the baby once the baby's born is concerned, we're probably not really going to deviate too far from what we're currently doing. Like, there's no need to introduce a whole bunch of, formula or all these baby foods. It's basically just sugar-laden junk. Yeah, all this prepackaged stuff.
The garbage.
Yeah, and we don't need any of that. Now, if the baby wants more berries than I would eat, like, that's fine to me. I don't have any issues with that. But, like, we're not going to be feeding the baby, birthday cake on, when he's born. So yeah, it's going to be, breast milk through and through, and then when the baby starts taking an interest in the food that we're eating, it's going to be the same food that we're eating. So it's going to be good quality, grass-fed, grass-finished steak, venison that I kill. I just butchered a cow a couple weeks ago, so I have a bunch of fresh, cow meat there, beef, and then just some vegetables and just high quality proteins and fats, basically.
Yeah, high quality food, and it's just so funny because it's like people will express concern for something like that, yet they won't bat an eye if you go to the McDonald's drive-through while you're pregnant. It's like the weirdest thing. I guess it's like they're uncomfortable. It's like something strange. People are,
Well, people are people. People get, it's hard not to, like, even my parents are here in town right now, right? Like, and we tell them things that we do, and they're not the same as what they did. And they did a great job, but we're doing different things. A lot of the time, it's a natural human tendency to feel like if it's a different approach, you feel convicted, or condemned. As if what you did was not good enough. But you should be honored that we're trying to just follow in your steps and do better. And the whole thing of let them be kids.
Yeah. I want to share a story because and I always love to tell a story because it really goes to show, like, they really only know what you teach them, especially at first. Like, you guys you have your own business, so I know you're not going to probably send them to a daycare. You're not going to send your child to a daycare. There's no need to be doing that when they're 1, 2, you know what I mean? Like, you probably are going to homeschool, right? She says she's going to homeschool. Yeah, you guys are all about that life. So really, you take advantage of that because I'd rather get their palate. And now that I have my kids are older, like, you can't unlearn that. It's like setting that foundation, it's awesome. Biblical. It's like setting that foundation. You can't set a house on sand, right? So it's like you're setting that foundation for the kids, and it really develops their palate for them to eat like meat and all this savory type of food instead of sugary, starchy foods, because they don't deviate. Like I'm telling you, we get the kids fries sometimes and Desmond leaves it for last because he knows that like what he craves the most for his actual hunger is the burger. So he'll eat the burger with no bun, and then like sometimes we'll get them sweet potato fries or whatever fries here and there, and they leave it for the end. Like it's like that never leaves that like those values that you instill in them. And so Desmond, when he was little, I'm telling you, we were so strict. We were like paleo, so very ancestral, like Weston A. Price, very close to ketogenic. We're probably keto a lot of the times without even knowing. And kids are so flexible, so they're like mostly keto all the time. This kid, they would give him a lollipop when he was like 2. I don't know where he got it or something. It's like, like a store, like, hey, you want a lollipop? And he took it and he was playing air drums because he truly had no idea what it was or what to do with it because he's home with me, like he knows what even when we used to celebrate Halloween, we don't do that anymore. But we used to celebrate Halloween. He thought it was a game.
He thought it was a game, like fill the bag with as many of these trinkets.
He wouldn't want it. Yeah, he thought they were like toys or something, like trinkets. He's like, here's my rewards. Like, I'm getting my little trinkets. This is the game. But like, he didn't know he was supposed to eat the stuff inside.
Well, I feel like, for us, like, I want to appeal to my kid's imagination too. So, if I'm talking to the kid and I'm like, look, you're going to have these superpowers if you just fill your body with quality food. Oh, yeah. That's not a lie by any means. It's not misleading. No. I look at how I feel my body and my ability from like an immune system standpoint alone. Yeah. Like, I never get sick. I don't ever worry about getting sick. And because I'm not worried about getting sick and living in fear from every little germ out there, I'm living my life to the fullest every single day. And I feel like a lot of that is because I don't take a bunch of unnecessary medication. I eat quality foods. I train. I stimulate my body in a proper way for a positive hormetic effect. And I feel like if I, educate my kid on the benefits of that alone, they'll be able to buy into the benefits of eating quality foods, sacrificing the crap foods that everybody else is eating, and being more physically active.
The only reason I want to bring this up is because I know you are all about this, and there's a major part of raising a child is to raise them to be assertive and independent and strong. And there's no better place to start, especially because now with us, like I've told you, like my spiritual walk, it's at a whole different level. And now we're doing things that we weren't even doing before as a lifestyle. And there's no better introduction to being different than doing it with diet, you know?
Yeah.
And so now our children,
they're used to it.
They're just used to doing things differently, and they're okay with it, you know? And I think that's such a quality to have, to be okay with not doing what everybody does.
Yeah, I feel like it's a totally okay thing at this point, to not be like everyone else.
I mean, yeah, it's
to
kind
not
of
be like the world.
They wear it as a badge of honor.
It's been working out so far.
And they're not holier than thou. They're not, you know, they'll talk to us about stuff. Like they'll say, hey, so-and-so does this. Isn't that funny? Like, and I'm like, well, they don't know any better,
right?
buddy. Yeah, they don't know any better.
They don't know.
But they're okay with being different. You know, and food is going to be the best start because, you know, everybody's going to be, you know, you're going to start hanging around other kids and even kids of people that we know.
Yeah.
They're just gonna a lot of the people don't extend it to the whole family the way we do and the way we know you will do. So
well, food is like such a compounding factor. I mean, like when you dissect your day to day and the things that you do every single day, I mean, unless you're doing an extended fast, like consumption of food is one of those things that you're doing every single day without fail. So like when you have the compounding effect of anything in life, it has a tremendous impact on the quality of your life. For better or worse as you age. So I feel like if they're starting at a young age with the right foundation from a quality food standpoint, like that compounding interest from fueling themselves properly is just going to continue to amplify as they get older and older.
100%. Absolutely. I remember now what I was going to say. So it's like, okay, so Robert, you remember like, you know, like before your keto and like before you get healthy, and we talk about this all the time with people, but it's like, you think it's normal. Like people chalk it up to old age because you don't know what it feels like to feel good. So you think like feeling a little bit tired at 3 p.m. or like having a random headache, like you think it's normal until you feel good, right? And then you're like, oh, that's not normal. Well, think about it. Like when you do this for the kids, like my kids' normal is good. So they don't know bad, but guess what? They know it. So when they eat bad, when you raise them like that, they're gonna know. So it's like even if they go
feedback.
Yeah, and like we can never control them. They can when they leave. Sometimes Desmond wants to buy crap, I let him, but then he, you know, sometimes they feel bad.
It's
so
with
they
his
know
money though.
And it's with their money. I don't buy it for them. I'm like, you could buy whatever you want with your money.
Like he bought bologna the other day.
Yeah,
like
he wanted bologna. I'm like, you're weird. Okay.
I was like, okay, bro, eat bologna, and he threw it in the garbage after trying it.
He literally threw it in the trash. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes you have to let them. You're like, all right, try the trash, because they don't realize like, no, this is my fancy. You're very fancy, organic. God, they don't. It's like they don't appreciate it because it's all they know until they eat the trash and they're like, oh, that doesn't feel good, you know. So it's like their baseline is good. So it's like they're gonna feel it, and so that's not, you know, like we can't control them, but they're gonna know not to go to like their knee jerk reaction is not gonna be what pill do I need. It's gonna be what did I eat.
Yeah, right? So many people, I'm baffled by that. And I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but there's most of my peer group, and certainly the people younger than me that I interact with on a regular basis, I mean, they don't think about their input factors like their nutrition, their sleep, their activity. They automatically go to what can I, take in exogenously to fix this problem, which to me is just a totally train wreck school of thought to begin with. But really instilling the power of empowering them to know that how you make decisions throughout the day is going to directly impact how you feel throughout the day. I mean, that's going to be one of my main focuses from a parenting standpoint for sure.
And they notice it too, because like they'll see like, Desmond's already a little bit older, so like they can tell like the kids that are overweight or that get sick all the time and just have these random autoimmune issues that they don't deal with.
He's actually like told kids, he's like, you should stop eating cereal for breakfast. I'm telling you, you should eat eggs and bacon. You'll feel better.
Yeah, but he's so great because he's so humble. So
yeah, he's humble.
like, Desmond,
he does it in
no,
a
they
really,
listen. They'll like,
he gives
they'll
it
be
like
oh,
advice,
cool.
like, listen, this works really well for me. You should try this. Like,
Yeah,
he's 10 years old.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah. So funny. All right. So my last question is, all right. So you guys just found out it's all right, you want to say what it is?
It is a boy. I'm having a son.
Okay, we might be a little bit biased, so we're super pumped about that.
So pumped.
You know, I'm sure you know this is probably not going to be your only child, but it's just nice for to have a boy to keep that family name going strong.
It's the first thing that I texted him.
The Sikes names lives on. So yeah, what are some? You know, what does this mean for you? How does this change? You know, because it does kind of change like how you approach the whole thing. Like knowing that it's a boy. Like, what are the things that you're most excited about?
I mean, I'm super excited about taking him outside and kind of like teaching him how to hunt and stuff. And that's going to be a little while from now before he's able to do that stuff. But that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. But I'm just excited to try and instill life lessons in a son. Like, I wouldn't know the first thing about raising a girl. I don't come from a family of girls. Like, there's hardly any girls in my entire family. So I'd be totally in uncharted territory there. But with the son, I feel like I've got a decent grasp. I know how I was raised. I know how some of the things that my parents did for me worked really, really well. There's some things that I would like to do differently. So I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on what I want to do. Now that may change drastically as things, happen. But I feel more prepared in having a son than I would if it were a daughter, for sure.
Love that. So exciting.
Oh man, I know. It's. I promise you, it's gonna be a lot of waiting, because there's gonna be so many things you want to do.
It's a little bit of both, because then before you know it, I'm sorry, but don't you look at Desmond and you're like, stop it, slow down. Slow down. Like before you know it, they're just enormous children, and you're like, why are you so large?
It's true, man. But I can tell you that my favorite part, and this gets me emotional just thinking about it, but my favorite part of my days is every day when I wake up, like not when I wake up, when they wake up, because by the time they wake up, it's like been 2.5 hours that I've been awake.
It's lunchtime.
But like when what happens every day?
Oh, well, Desmond comes over and he's like, hi.
Yeah, he comes and hugs me. Comes in his boxers,
I'm like,
hugs
go get
me.
dressed.
I tell him to go get dressed. You're not a little boy anymore.
I know. I'm like, stop.
And then what does Dean do?
Oh, Dean just yells like, Bobby, like for Danny to go over there and
go over there, pick him up. I bring him to the couch.
He's still like the little baby man.
And like every night is when I take him to bed, we pray. And a lot of these awesome conversations we have at that time of night, and obviously they're changing. Yeah. Because those are the times when he feels Desmond, because he's at that age. Dean half the time is asleep by then. Like by the time we go to bed, he's like out in a minute, or he's already out. And Desmond, that's when he'll bring something up, and he'll say something, and then we'll pray about that. And then I just see these traditions that have been developing that will go on forever. And I know, because we were young once, that they'll never forget it. And there's just nothing, there's no words for it. There's just no words for it. So you guys are going to love that. So yeah, man, dude, this was awesome. Guys, obviously, let me ask you this, because we were talking about this. I had my input. Did you go with, can you reveal a title, or is that still in the works?
For the baby's name, or
for the book?
Oh, the book. The book is going to be just Ketogenic Bodybuilding, a natural athlete's guide to competitive savagery.
Dude, I love it. I love it.
Simple,
I was down with that Ketogenic Bodybuilding for the main title. That was my
because nobody has it, and like you got to get that.
Well, I feel like I bought the domain Ketogenic Bodybuilding way back in like 2015 or 16 or something, way back in the day, because I knew I was going to write the book, and I knew it was going to be about ketogenic bodybuilding. I bought several domains.
Yes, we buy domains too.
I wrote the several first chapters of the book, and I'm like reading this, and I'm like, the only title that makes sense is ketogenic bodybuilding. So that's definitely what I'm going to roll with, and I'm super excited about it for sure.
Well, we know the kid's name too, but we don't. I mean, that's not something if you have to share. But
no, you can keep it.
No, it's on social. So the kid's name is my son's name is going to be Robert Sikes. So my name's Robert. Obviously, my dad's name is Robert. His dad's name is Robert. I am not a third. My grandfather and my dad are both Robert Smith Sikes, And then they named me Orion. My dad named me Orion, mom and dad, because they wanted me to have meaning of the hunter, and the constellation of stars, Orion, means the hunter, which is pretty cool. And then Rigel is the brightest star in the constellation Orion. So basically, Robert Rigel Sikes is going to be the brightest part of me, which is kind of cool, I thought.
I think I love the idea too of not having a second, third, and fourth.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
what's interesting too is, so his initials are going to be R.R. Sikes.
Yeah.
The only other person in the family that has R.R. Sikes as initials was Royal Ray Sikes, and that was the original Sikes that bought the land for the farm and was the
that's
corner
amazing.
post for the Sikes family.
Full
So,
circle. It's like a full circle moment. That's so
fantastic.
cool. That is so cool. I love that.
Awesome,
Very
brother.
cool.
Well, dude, this was awesome, man. It was so great to have you on. Like, it's always great to catch up, but it's always great to catch up on the
the Zoom.
Yeah,
On
hitting
the Zoom.
record so that people can watch it.
Oh, I got on Zoom with my friends now. I'm like, we need to work. I'm like, AKA talk and catch up.
well, it's always a pleasure chatting with y'all. We need to reconvene in person sometime here soon, though.
Oh yes, and I look forward to the future of like all the hunting
Trips with families.
adventures at the farm.
Yeah, well, I gotta get you out of the farm. Get Dean and Desmond down the
gotta
farm,
go.
shoot some things. It'll be good.
Well, dude, like I said, I want to go twice in the spring. Once at least to see the compound if there's no time to go to the farm, and once for sure to go to the farm. Preferably, I mean, we could do both, go to the compound, go to the farm, but I want to take 2 trips, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, totally, man. It's good fishing there in the summertime and springtime, so we can make it happen for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I caught my first crappie last spring when we went with Anthony. So let's tell everybody who, for some reason, just stumbled upon this, where they can find you and all your websites and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so Keto Savage on social, so ketosavage.com, Keto Savage on social, ketobrick.com for the brick business, and then when the book is published, which will hopefully be the end of January, it will be available on Amazon and all the places books are sold, but there'll be a bunch of information and a link to that on ketogenicbodybuilding.com.
What a great
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
URL, dude. Thank you, brother.
Take care. Y'all have a good one.